We were never given a proper manual for colonization in Elite Dangerous, and the in-game codex, while helpful, isn't exactly comprehensive. So what we've done is we went ahead and wrote our own. And by we, I mean a pretty significant chunk of Elite Dangerous community, with folks collaborating across the Canon Discord and their Colonization channel, with the Xenostrike Force, in the Elite Dangerous official forums, and a number of other communities really across the entire game. So this has been a labor of love of a significant group of people, which has resulted in what is now the version 2.0 edition of the Elite Dangerous Colonization Megaguide, which aims to be the end-all, be-all manual to colonization aimed at pretty much anyone who is getting started with this activity in the game, which is pretty complex. And while overwhelming, as the guide spans no fewer than 80 pages total, it is something that you can sort of digest and eat at your own pace, if you will. There's a number of terms and definitions that have been updated. There's a whole topic discussion of what motivation and why people colonize and the reasons to do it in the game. There's a discussion on what you need to get started, including a series of recommended builds for the hauling, which is not insignificant at this point in the game. There's a description of how to claim a system, the concept of bridging towards systems you may want to claim, the process to deploy the colonization beacon, the primary port and how that works, and the exclusivity period, which is the most recently introduced change to prevent so-called system sniping of claims, which is a great thing, by the way. That was just introduced this past week. And throughout all of this is tips and tricks, like, for example, the fact that if you're a solo player, you might want to be in a one-person squadron, as that extends the exclusivity period from a mere 30 minutes to a full 24 hours, effectively providing you defense against snipes also in a solo setting, in addition to just that 30-minute you would otherwise have, which helps if you're actively engaged in the game, but it doesn't help with the so-called overnight snipes that would happen otherwise, with somebody else coming in and finishing the last outpost while you're sleeping, which, if that lockout is only 30 minutes, you would essentially not have time to kind of defend against. Whereas, while being in a squadron, you would. This is just one example of the many tips and tricks that are sort of peppered throughout this document of saying, hey, how can your experience with colonization be better? What should you know before you get started in terms of how things actually work and how things can work for you or against you? So there's also an explanation of how to architect the system, how construction point work, the concept of construction point doubling, how ports effectively come together and sort of result in combining to that degree. And there's a description of the tools to effectively plan for system colonization, the absolutely excellent Raven Colonial website and the truly outstanding and stunning spreadsheet from Commander Daftmap are two incredible tools that every serious system architect should be considering or be using, with a series of considerations on how to go about it. There's a discussion on the value of space versus ground slots, how to name and customize your facilities, both from a, again, naming standpoint and from a livery standpoint, the way station interiors work and how different station interiors come to be and what they look like based on the different type of economy, so that you know what to expect and you can choose what you kind of look you want to go for also from an interior standpoint based on the economy of your station. How, and this is also new to this past week, how to cancel and deconstruct facilities and how that works. How to get specific services enabled out ports, like what specifically needs to be present in a system for a particular system to act, for a particular service to activate in a particular facility. And by the way, this is real. There's some things that are in the patch notes which are actually incorrect. Like, for example, regarding Vista Genomics and primary supplies, the patch note says that there's specific requirements for them to activate, but the reality is they are always active if present on a station. So again, this is the correct table, regardless of pretty much anything else that is written anywhere, at least as of the time of writing, which was October 19 of 2025. So, and then there's like the treatment of how colony type port gain economies, the base inheritable economies and modifiers. This is a very complex topic that essentially explains how to specialize economies in a very precise manner and how the different factors come into play in combining to to specialize a particular economy for a colony type port. There's strong and weak links, and those are discussed with how also they come to be and are modified by additional factors, including this treatment of bugs. Like, for example, terraformable bodies are supposed, according to the patch notes, to give a boost to agriculture, but they don't in the current version of the game. So I believe this is a bug, but again, it's one of the things, of the many tiny small things that you want to know before you set about planning your system out. Then there's a discussion of weak links, and there's a special case of port-to-port strong links, which is a very complicated special case, which again, you can stick with a general wisdom of do not build more than one port per local body. That makes your life simpler. But if you want to make your life more complicated and get into the understanding of how different ports interact with each other when they're built around the same local body, this section explains how that essentially works and how they get to convert to supporting facilities when more than one is present. Then there's a very high-level treatment of how security, wealth, standard of living, tech level, development level, and population work. The reality is this is a section we still know the least about in the game, so we're still doing some research. Maybe in version 3.0 of this guide we'll know enough to be able to treat these factors in a scientifically accurate manner. For now, we share what we do know, and we share what sort of a kind of knowledge that we have regarding how these things work, again with the understanding that there's gaps. Then there's a whole chapter on how to select a primary port and what goes into that consideration, which is exceptionally important in these days because the primary port of a system is the only facility you cannot deconstruct and change ever. It's the only permanent choice you make in a system, really, after you make a claim. The only thing you can do is you can cancel the claim after you've made it and sort of like, again, put the system back into the claim pool. That's the only thing you can do regarding canceling primary ports. Once a primary port is built, it's there forever. So you're going to have to live with the choice you make. So a particularly important one where it's good to kind of spend some time thinking about exactly what needs to go into that. Then there's a series of considerations regards to how to select the system and like what way would you want a particular system over another, how to haul effectively and best use carriers. There's a number of resources like contractors and community support, like the system colonization contractors, Operation EDA, Fright, the Colonize Straight Network. These are all groups that for a fee will help you build your system. So if you're rich in credits but poor in time, these are groups that can actually help you. Then there's a couple of case studies to help make it all real, because this is kind of complicated and sometimes it's easier to explain for an example. So a couple of examples to help make it real. There's a number of bugs, known issues, and possible workarounds as of the state of the game as of today. And then obviously feedback, document roadmap, and special thanks of where we want to take this document going forward, and thanking all the amazing group that has come together to make this overall possible. Then there's a couple of appendixes with links, resources, and the in-game codex, so it's available here in case you ever want to reference it. And this is it. This is version 2.0 of the Elite Dangerous Colonization Mega Guide. There are a number of places where you can leave feedback and engage in discussion and making this overall better. Version 2.0 is not the final version. We certainly want to continue improving it. So if you find something that's wrong in here, or if you have specific quantitative scientific information that you think would be worth to add, find us on Reddit, find us in the forums, find us in Discord, leave comments on this YouTube channel, or send us a carrier pigeon, whatever you may find more convenient. Hope this is helpful. It was a labor of love, but I have to say I'm personally quite proud of how it came out, because it's a good document. At least my opinion is that it is a good document. But I would love to know yours. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and glory to mankind. Commander Mechan, over and out.